How does a wonderful mind and an excellent team function under a crisis situation? Welcome to Thank God It's a Story Saturday, a weekly video series where I share stories with you that you can use to make your messages stick. Now, on the 15th of January this year, it was 12 years since the miracle on the Hudson River took place. What is the miracle on the Hudson River? Let's take you back to 15th of January 2009. On that day, Captain Sully Sullenberger came to the airport to do what he had been doing for very many years. He says that it felt like any other 10,000 days that he had already lived. He was scheduled to fly flight 1549. It was a routine and an unremarkable sort of day, but only for the first 100 seconds. At that time, Captain Sully saw this flock of geese which was very close to the plane. And he said when he noticed it, it was too late to maneuver. These birds would hit the windshield of the plane. And soon he could smell this odor which was coming from the burning bird. And the plane had come to a place where it was experiencing one of aviation's most threatening sort of foes. Soon Captain Sully knew that both the engines are gone and he's going to have to decide what next. He said in that moment, he clearly remembers there are three thoughts that just came to his mind. The very first one was, this couldn't be happening. You know, the whole notion of disbelief in crisis is a real one. It happens to people. The second one was, this couldn't be happening to me. He'd had a brilliant career in flying, and he's like, this is impossible. This can't happen to me. And finally, it was the realization that this had happened. So immediately, he decided to think, what was his priority? In that moment in crisis, there are a lot of things one feels like doing. So he prioritized and had the discipline to detach himself from other things that seemed like the could be done, should be done, but what are the must be dones? So he did a couple of things, and then the decision he had to make was that from where he was, there were two nearby airports, and could he get to the runway of those airports? When he took the reaction time into consideration, it was impossible to get to the runway. And then there was only one spot, based on his experience of flying, that he identified that he could land this plane on. That was the Hudson River. He made a call then to the air traffic control, where the suggestion came from that you should go to the nearby airport and get to the runway there. And he, in a very calm manner, responded, unable to reach the runway, we will end up being on the Hudson. After that, he said, I needed to make an announcement. He knew that there were only few seconds he had to be able to make the right announcement that would align his team. So he was very careful about choosing his word. So he chose brace for impact. And he says, as I said that, this is your captain speaking, brace for impact, I could hear the flight attendants telling people, brace for impact, head down, head down. And that, in that moment, he felt really proud that even by using just few words, he could have all his team members aligned. One of the person that he really sort of relied on and really says that was very helpful in him being able to make the right decision was his co-pilot, Jeff Skiles. And he says that he cheered me silently, but also knew when to intervene and tell me if I was about to make an error. Now, the word that I love that he used for his collaboration with his co-pilot was wordless collaboration, where intuitively the other person knew what the other person needed and things were being done. And at that time, you have to be so careful because if in a sort of a fraction you miss something, you do something wrong, it can be a disaster. Without him having to ask, his co-pilot Jeff Skiles started to tell him about the air and altitude speed because he knew that he would need that information to be able to make a good decision. And then they landed on the Hudson River. And as they landed, he says both Jeff and I looked at each other and at the same time said exactly the same thing. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Now, they didn't give each other a high five at that stage because there were still 155 passengers who needed to be evacuated. And he says then there was this agony of 4 hours before he was told that all 155 passengers were accounted for. They were all safe. Now, I love this story because there are some lessons in this story about being in a crisis situation. The very first one is the priority one. Priority is hard because there are many things that seem right at the same time, and then you have to choose. The second one that I love about this story is what real collaboration looks like. It's wordless. Collaborations can sometimes feel like a burden when there is over communication and over updating and over informing. So I loved how he described his relationship with his co-pilot, a wordless team effort. I really enjoyed what he talked about, the choice of words, minimal words that can align the entire team. And finally, there's this one stage in the story where he says that when he made that announcement to the passengers, he wanted to make sure that he sounds confident, because courage can be contagious. This is one of those stories when I read and when I heard on the video, it makes you tear because you really see what greatness looks like. I hope this inspires greatness in you, and I hope this takes you to places you've never navigated before. May you stay courageous, may you stay strong, and may you really learn to create collaborations that are wordless. Story on, everyone.